Now, did I like this film? Really, did I like this film? And as I said already, yes. The first time I watched it, I liked it. But overall, I thought it was decent, but very, very flawed. Do I still like it now? No, I don't, because this movie really annoys me on many, many levels. Why? Because it's not a good film. It's not a good film from a story perspective, and it's not a good film from a character and technical perspective. And it's not a good comic book movie. Why is it not a good comic book film then? Doesn't it have a lot of references, Easter eggs, characters, etc., etc.? It's got a lot of Easter eggs, but they're not good Easter eggs because they feel forced. And they're done in such a way which is very unnecessary, and they're not done right. When you watch any sort of movie or a comic book film and you have an Easter egg in there, yes, fans are going to notice it. But most of the time, an Easter egg should be something that a fan notices at first go, or they notice it upon rewatch. That is what an Easter egg is. The Easter eggs in this film are in your face, right? They're done in such a way that they tie into the plot, and they're in your face. And yes, fans are going to get it, they're going to get happy, they're going to not understand what it is, they're going to probably be satisfied. But a normal movie-going audience isn't going to understand that, okay? Someone who's never read the comics, watched the shows, read, seen the cartoons, they're not going to get half of those references in this movie. They're going to see that, they're going to be confused, and then they're not going to give a shit, and the film is going to put them off. I'm watching this movie, I turn over to my friend because I'm getting excited about these Easter eggs, and I see him on the phone because he doesn't give a shit. He's on his phone, bored out of his mind. And I look around and the entire cinema is just quiet, not cheering, not laughing, and people are either getting up or leaving, or people are just talking amongst themselves, not even paying attention to the film, because that's how boring it is. That's how forced the Easter eggs are, and that's how much off-putting it is. Yes, it's cool to have the Flash in there. It's cool that we get to see Aquaman and Cyborg. It's cool that we got this Easter egg hinting at Darkseid, but it makes no point, because a normal movie-going audience isn't going to understand that. And when you make a comic book movie, when you make a comic book into a film, you need to take the normal audience into consideration, and this movie does not do that. Okay, you can argue that this is a movie made for the fans. Yes, in a way it is a movie made for the fans, but at the same time it's a movie that's going to piss a lot of fans off, and it's going to piss a lot of normal audiences off, because they're not going to understand what the hell is going on. They're not going to understand this reference. They're not going to understand the scene where the Flash suddenly turns up and it's meant to hint at the future or something. They're not going to get that. They're not going to understand the meaning behind it, and they're going to be put off by it. Because this movie has been made in such a way that only a fanboy is going to get this. And you're not supposed to make a film for the fans. You're meant to make a film that, is for both the normal audience and the fans, so that both sides can enjoy it. When you make a movie just for one side in general, that's not good. That's not good filmmaking. And the overall story in this film is such a mess. It's so jumbled up, so convoluted, that you're just wondering why. Batman and Superman, it should be simple, but it's not. Because this film, in a way, tries to do something that I think the Nolans did with the Dark Knight trilogy, and this movie is not the Dark Knight trilogy. This movie should be its own thing, and yet it's not. It's very confusing. It's very confusing, especially when it's meant to be a sequel to Man of Steel, and yet, at times, it doesn't even feel like it's a sequel to Man of Steel. It doesn't feel that well connected to Man of Steel, if that makes sense. There's just the tone and the story being told and the characters, they don't feel right at all. It doesn't really, it's a jumbled mess. It doesn't connect. It's like, it's trying to connect, but it loses itself along the way. And it's, when people say that they're bored of superhero films, one, it's really because you're not doing anything new with these characters. There's a reason why a lot of people like Wonder Woman in this movie. It's because she's different and she's new. That's why. Batman and Superman aren't. Now yes, Batman in this movie is the best part, yes, and Superman isn't. But the reason for that overall is because we've seen dozens of films, dozens of cartoons, dozens of shows with these characters that it's gotten boring for the majority of the audience. And there's a reason why Marvel is more successful with their characters than DC is. Why? Because Marvel takes risks. They're giving us characters that we would never have thought we'd see in films. We never thought we'd see in a million years, and it's a risk taking, but they succeeded with that. For all the crap that Snyder said about Flavor of the Week, Marvel has proved more successful with that formula than he has with these characters. Again, two of the most iconic characters, and people are praising Wonder Woman a hell of a lot more than they are Batman and Superman. And that's mostly to do with the crappy ass script and the character motivations, which I'm going to go into now. Now, Batman, Ben Affleck. I'm not a huge fan of Ben Affleck. I hate Ben Affleck. I didn't like Argo. A lot of personal reasons there. But he was good in this film. Okay, I'm not going to take that away from him. He was the best part of this movie because he seemed like the only person in this film who was trying very hard to give a good performance. And it's very hard to give a good performance when the script is so bad and so average and mediocre at best. But he delivered. He did what he could. And him and his chemistry and screen time and relationship with Jeremy Irons, Alfred, those were the best parts of the film. Everything to do with Batman and his world was great. So good, in fact, that yeah, I'm very much interested in seeing what Ben Affleck can do with a solo film. Because the way they've set it up, at least with those two specific characters, it works very well. But that also said, I couldn't really get into his Batman because I didn't really know anything about his Batman. Again, we should have gotten a solo film with Ben Affleck first in order to understand what the hell was going on with his character. Because there's a lot of stuff in there, in this movie, that you're meant to take in as a visual cue. And in the end, you're just left wondering what the hell happened. I mean, are they going to address this in a solo film? Or is it going to be a prequel when we do get it? Or are we going to get flashbacks? But we don't even get flashbacks in this film to explain that. We get a burnt down Wayne Manor. We get a dead Robin. We get references to the Joker and all that stuff. But the only thing we are left with is things to put together. And you know what? That's not a bad thing to do. But it's a bad thing when you can't connect with the character. And that's one of the things I couldn't really do. I couldn't connect with his character because I didn't know his character. But still, was he the best part? Yeah, if not a bit brutal. This is the most brutal Batman we have gotten. Because this Batman kills. Kills a lot, in fact. Snaps people's necks, stabs them, blows them up, even smashes them with his Batmobile. Is that the Batman we know and love? No. The Batman we know doesn't kill people. But surprisingly, the Batman from the comics, when he first made his first appearance, he did kill people, he didn't use guns. And there are a few comics there where he does use guns and kill people. I think there's a Batman graphic novel called The Cult, where Batman and Robin are loaded with weapons and going on a war spree and blowing shit up. And I'm pretty sure that Batman killed people in The Dark Knight Returns, which this movie is very much heavily inspired by. And Batman did kill people in the Tim Burton movies. And Batman did kill people by accident, and sometimes necessarily, in the Nolan films. So Batman has killed. It's not a new thing. The problem is the way he kills people in this movie, which is very, very, very deliberate, compared to, say, the way he did it in the Nolan films, or even the Tim Burton. I think there's only one case in the Tim Burton movies where he killed someone and he was smiling, but that was more of a funny scene. Yes, he did it on purpose, but that was that one incident. Maybe another one where he killed some guy by throwing him off, but really, there was no choice in that. It had to happen. And maybe the killing of the Joker. The point is, yes, Batman has killed people, but the way he kills people in this film is very brutal and very unexpected. And I wouldn't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with my characters killing, because, the Marvel films do it all the time. And Batman has killed a lot of people in the previous movies. I wouldn't have a problem with it if there's a reason why he does it. Because obviously this movie tries to say that there was a point when he didn't, and now he is. And again, there are visual cues here, visual clues if you will, that we get that sort of give a hint why he does what he does. But we never get a scene, for example, with Alfred and Batman sitting down and Alfred telling him, just because that happened doesn't mean you have to go and do this, etc., etc. We don't get something like that. And in the end, we're just sitting there wondering why. Because nothing is really told to us. We're just meant to presume that we're meant to know our history, or presume that we're meant to understand the hints and put two and two together. But a movie like this shouldn't be done like that. Tell us why. Show us the emotion. We don't get that. And for us, Batman killing people, in my opinion, just feels very, very wrong. Very, very badly done as well. And I don't care in the end. Superman, now Henry, I loved his performance in Man of Steel. I did. I thought he played the character in such a way where his actions, his reactions, his expression, his facial expressions, etc., etc., spoke more volumes than anything he ever said when he was given dialogue. And in my opinion, his Superman was very humble and caring and yet sad. But overall, it was a decent performance. In this movie, he doesn't even feel like a character. He's a tool, basically. He's a MacGuffin. He's one-dimensional. He's brooding all the time. If Batman is a serial killer in this, Superman is a depressing shit. And Superman shouldn't be depressing. He should be a ray of light, a ray of hope. Christopher Reeve once said, that Superman should not be a muscled guy in a suit. He should be your best friend. He should be like your neighbor, someone who cares. And I don't get that in this movie. Because Superman hardly has a role to play in this film. His entire motivation and character arc in this film is pointless. It doesn't add anything to it. You've got Clark Kent coming into this movie and he's sad all the time. He's helping people. There's a montage, he's helping people and he's not smiling, he's not happy, he's just brooding all the time. And he's after Batman for some reason because he doesn't find his methods acceptable. Now yes, his methods aren't acceptable, but compared to yours, there's a sequence, pretty much the first scene of the film, and he literally straight up murders someone and later on he says that he didn't. Now that's bullshit because you watch this movie carefully and he does kill a human being, and right then and there that's the first mistake that this movie does, is that it doesn't take into account his actions from the previous film. In the previous movie he killed someone and it was meant to teach him that killing is wrong. Now yes, he killed a Kryptonian, but overall it was meant to say that he will never ever kill again, Kryptonian or human. And in this film, first few minutes straight up he murders someone. And then later on he says he didn't kill anyone. And it's like, well, I didn't see the man alive. Unless there's a scene that was cut that showed the man in bandages or in the hospital. You killed him. You straight up murdered him. So you're a killer as far as I'm concerned. And you're also depressing as hell. And you're a tool. Because really, Superman has no motivation in this movie. He has no real plot line. Lois Lane gets a lot more scenes as a reporter than Clark Kent does. If anything, her subplot should have been his subplot. It should have been him trying to investigate Lex Luthor. It should have been him trying to find out what the hell was going on with this movie, trying to find out who's trying to frame him. Instead, you got him doing all these weird, unneeded, necessary things where he's just a tool in his own film. And it's sad, because that's not who Superman is. But then what do you expect when you have someone like Zack Snyder directing this film? Because the man doesn't understand these characters. He doesn't. Batman's a killer, Superman's a depressing shit. Damn. Just damn. When I first heard that Ben Affleck was cast as Batman, it literally put me off from this movie. When I heard that Jesse Eisenberg was going to play Lex Luthor, that put me more off the film. Not because I don't like him. I like Jesse. I liked him in Zombieland. I think he's a funny dude. But Lex Luthor? No. No, there's no way in hell he'll be able to play a good Lex Luthor. Now, in this movie, surprisingly, for the most part, in my opinion, he's the most interesting character in the film. Mostly because he's got some of the best lines in the movie that at least felt interesting to me. Which isn't saying a lot because, again, the script for the most part is bad. But his character was just weird compared to the Lex Luthor we know from the comics and the other shows. But the more I think about it, it's not a very good portrayal because, yeah, for the most part, it feels like he's trying to be the Joker in this movie, and that's not very good. But at the same time, in the original comics, Lex Luthor was a mad scientist, but here, it goes more beyond that. Now, yes, his character in this film is probably the most ruthless Lex that we've gotten since Gene Hackman and Kevin Spacey and the other dude from the TV series. But the problem with Lex Luthor's character isn't because he's weird or acts funny, it's because there's no motivation. Literally, his character has no motivation whatsoever. The whole film I'm watching this, I'm trying to figure out where his character's coming from, and you get a few lines of dialogue about being abused by his dad and stuff, but it never really makes sense or amounts to anything. So he hates Superman because his dad used to abuse him. At first I thought it's because his dad might have died during the Metropolis scene, and that's what was motivating him. He wanted revenge, but that's never really made clear. His entire hate for Superman is never made clear. And what also doesn't make sense is why he doesn't help Batman. And if he's trying to kill Superman and Batman's trying to kill Superman, and he knows who Batman and Superman are, why doesn't he just go to Bruce Wayne or Batman, or contact Batman and tell him, hey, I'm going to give you the kryptonite, blah blah blah, if you promise that you're going to get Superman for me, etc., etc., and have him manipulate Bruce Wayne into trying to kill, Superman, and then manipulate Superman into trying to kill Batman so he can get rid of the competition. But overall, that never really happens because he's doing his own thing, and it never makes any sense because there's no motivation for his character. Now, if maybe he had a relationship with his dad, and his dad or a friend or a family member or something had died during the Battle of Metropolis, and he felt pissed off about that, and he wanted revenge, and maybe he found out that, Bruce Wayne was Batman and he didn't do anything about it, and he wanted to get revenge on him as well, that would have made a lot of sense. That would have really helped the film in general. But in the end, no. By the end, you watch this film and you never really learn anything about him or why he does what he does. He just does it because he's meant to be the bad guy. That's it. Which is just pathetically pointless and sad. Because really, he should be the glue that holds this film together, and he doesn't. It just falls apart. And in the end, you have to wonder why his character is even in this movie, because really, in reality, you could take his character out and replace it with anyone else, and the film would probably still be the same. Hell, you could take his character out, and it would still probably be the same. You'd probably have a better movie there, because it's just Batman and Superman going at it. Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot. I liked her. I liked her a lot. When they first announced her as Wonder Woman, I didn't have no problem with her. I like her as an actress. I liked her in the Fast and Furious movies, and I liked her Wonder Woman in this movie. But her Wonder Woman is, her character in general is only in this film for about 10 minutes, I think. And sadly, she should have been the main heroine in this movie. She should have been the main female lead. Instead, it's Amy Adams, Lois Lane, who is very, very useless in this film. Her character in Man of Steel, I could forgive that. I could forgive it because it was the first movie, it was an origin film, so, I could accept any of the flaws they did with her character in that film. The way they wrote her into several scenes when she was very unnecessarily unneeded, and the way that you had Superman save her constantly. It was unneeded. But I forgave them for that. This is a sequel, and a sequel should be better, it should be an improvement, and it repeats the same mistakes. The writers, again, put Lois Lane in situations where she shouldn't be even in them. They give her a stupid subplot that makes no sense whatsoever, just to give her some sort of plot. And they have her constantly being saved by Superman. I mean, she's constantly a damsel in distress. So when you have someone like Wonder Woman coming in, you're more fascinated by her because she's this powerful female character. Now, I'm not all for feminism and all that stuff. No, I'm not. But they should have written Lois Lane as a simple character. She didn't need to be in half of this movie. She could have just had her roles, scenes here and there, and that's it. Or have her had help. Have her had help Clark in his investigations, maybe with Lex or Batman. But no, she's doing her own thing, and it's pointless. Mostly because the subplot that has her dealing with all of this is stupid beyond belief. And it's to do with this whole African sequence at the beginning where some people get shot. Superman gets framed for it, and Superman doesn't use guns. this whole subplot involving him shooting people is bullshit, because people should know by now he doesn't use guns. The people testifying against him, you know, and it's shit like that that takes you out of the movie. When you watch a movie for the first time, right, you know, the difference between a fun and a shitty film is that when you watch a film for the first time, you're gonna ignore a lot of the flaws. But when you have a flaw like that, and you realize it very instantly, it puts you off the movie. It does. And I realized that, and the first thing that's going in my head is what the hell is going on? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Why are they accusing him of shooting and killing people when he doesn't use freaking guns? And it's never answered, it's never made clear. It's an obvious frame up, but no one ever says anything. And then we come back to Lois, who again, like I said, is just a damsel in distress, a typical damsel in distress. The amount of times she's rescued in this movie is laughable. Now yes, there is a moment towards the end which makes sense, but then you have a moment later on, and it's like, how convenient for her to be there. How convenient that this has to happen with her, and it's just, it's mind-boggling. And then that's why when you have a character like Wonder Woman, you're more overjoyed, because that character is a lot more sexier, a lot more badass, a lot more, yeah, of what you want from a female tough character. But then, when you think about it, when you sit down and really think about it, Wonder Woman's character in general, her entire plot is pointless. Because her entire subplot resolves around her character being a mystery, right? And Bruce Wayne trying to figure that mystery out. But it's so pointless because we as an audience already know that she's Wonder Woman. We know that by the end of the movie she's going to dress up as Wonder Woman and come and save the day. It's not a freaking surprise. So when Bruce Wayne ends up finding out who she is, it's not really a surprise. It's like, oh yeah, she's Wonder Woman, which we already knew. Like, wow, what a plot twist, wow. This movie would have worked a lot better if her character had just been cut from the film, or if they'd kept her character hidden, so that when we watch this movie, we're wondering, who is she? So that when the big reveal comes, we're like, holy crap, see, that would have been a good Easter egg, that would have been a good revelation, but no, it's wasted. We then have the supporting cast members like Lawrence Fishburne, Holly Hunter, and that one chick who plays, you know, Superman's mom, whose name I have forgotten. But yeah, they did a decent job. The supporting cast, in my opinion, for this film do a decent job of what they're given. Lawrence Fishburne is always great to watch. Holly Hunter does a good job for her character, Senator Flinch. A nice bit of, you know, counter-argument stuff there, and her little discussions with Jesse's Lex Luthor, which was always fun to watch. And then, you know, the actress who plays, what's her name? Martha Kent. Meh, she's good, she's decent, if not kind of selfish with the advice she gives to Clark. I mean, wow. The stuff she tells him during their little scene, it's like, what? You've seen in the trailer, I guess, you know what part I'm talking about, but it's just like, why? Why would you say that? Why would you tell him that? You've also got a cameo appearance from Kevin Costner, reprising his role as Jonathan Kent. And it's a nice scene, don't get me wrong, but it just comes out of nowhere, and again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, though the message he does try to get across is nice, but what? Again, films like Spider-Man 2, I think, did scenes like that a lot better, and this film tries to sort of replicate that, and it's like, the way it does it, it just feels rushed and bullshitty. But overall, you know, when it comes to the performances, everyone does what they can, really, to the best of their abilities, with some major exceptions being that, you know, Henry just does a poor job as Superman and Clark Kent, and yeah, Jesse isn't that good of a villain because he just really lacks motivation. But, you know, Ben Affleck as a brutal Batman, yeah, I can get behind that if we were given a reason as to why he was killing people in the first place. I mean, obviously there is a reason, but it's not expanded upon. And his relationship with Jeremy Irons, Alfred, is great because Alfred just feels like this badass dude, mentor. I mean, he's got that, it's that voice. It's really that voice that sells him, and you know, he's always known as playing villains, but here he plays this mentor figure, this father figure, and it's great. And I would love to see that relationship further explored in the solo films. So those two did a really good job. And Gal Gadot, even though she's hardly in this movie and doesn't really do much, at least she's a badass when it comes to it. At least she's something new compared to Batman and Superman. And that one moment at the end when she's fighting and she's got this smile on her face, it's just like, yeah, that's a fun character. That's someone I can get behind and have fun with. I mean, she feels like she's having fun compared to, you know, Superman and Batman. They're just like, he's either brooding or Batman's just useless because he can't really do shit because he's a human being. So,